Welcome to the panel, first thing in the morning. I'm Megan Alloway from Heightened Leaders. Lots of Heightened Leaders in the last 3 minutes, so thank you very much for that. I've been guiding business here in this community for about the past 7 years. I've had the unbelievable privilege to work with some amazing business owners, business leaders, team members, helping truly do what they want to do, make a giant impact in the business. It has been a great privilege to see the heart, the grit, and the perseverance that lives in this community. We've been handed quite a bit over the last couple of years, and yet everyone in this community has worked together, done great things, made great initiatives, and really thrived, which I'm encouraged. Today, our mission is to help you learn from the past couple of years, especially this year, so that we can step into whatever is handed to us in 2023. So at this time of year, we're getting ready, planning for the new year, and that's what this is all about. I truly believe in business, you only do 3 things. You get business, you do business, and you protect your. I'm not going to sit up here, I don't think any one of us is going to sit up here and tell you how to do your business. I think we all were up really late last night and don't want that stress today. So we're going to focus on the 2 things that I do think will play a part in the next couple of months and in the next year. The get business, and of course the protect business. There are a lot of factors out there that could truly impact those 2 things. So we've assembled an amazing panel of experts that can help us streamline our messaging, can help us truly get business, and those of us up here that can help us protect it. What I'd love to do is just take a couple of minutes to have each one of our panelists introduce themselves. We'll start with Stephen.
Hi, my name is Stephen Quesada, and I'm a labor and employment attorney at a firm called Ogletree Deacons. Ogletree is a management-side labor and employment firm that handles employee disputes with their employers, everything from an internal complaint to a litigation, trial, and appeal. I practice employment litigation and counseling employers day-to-day and HR professionals day-to-day about issues that arise in the workplace.
Darlene.
Hi, I'm Darlene Gagnon. It's Gone and Yon. That's how you pronounce it. Nice French name. Before I got married, I had to do Google Translate about 14 times before I got to pronounce my last name. I started my entrepreneurial journey about 14 years ago. I left corporate America. I did what Hal said. I just did it. I took the last of my savings and joined our family of businesses. We had 7 family businesses, and I spearheaded their success, and 2 of them I spearheaded their failures. And today we have 3 businesses. We Connect Global Branding Agency is a proud sponsor of this event, and that agency was started out of need. We had a construction company, and I took my big corporate experience, went out and looked for an agency. They were happy to take my money, not deliver an ROI. I said, screw this. I'm going to start an agency, and they are going to pay me. So I'm going to charge our families to do their marketing. And so here I am. My latest venture is I just published a book called The Silent Entrepreneur. And this is all about being an introvert, leading a family business, and learning how to be authentic in your leadership style as an introvert. And I also talk about my failures in being married to my business partner and dragging my kids in my business, and how to fire the brother-in-law that's working for you but not working. And so I will be putting together some great workshops, and we're also going to be doing some retreats in Mexico, and we're going to be focused on the business of family business. So that's a little bit about who I am.
Thank you so much. Jeff.
My name is Jeff Newkirk. I'm a business executive coach and consultant with Blanton Advisors. I started my own business in 2019, and starting a business is hard, but who thought we'd have a pandemic right around the corner? So perseverance is key. I was in the corporate world for about 30 years, mostly in finance and administrative positions. Decided to strike out on my own in 2019. And in 2021, started working with Barry Blanton and Blanton Advisors. It's a real privilege to be able to work with Barry. He's a pillar of the community. We all know him, and it's great to be here. Let's get going.
Thank you very much. Over the past couple of years, we've been handed quite a bit, right? Good things, bad things, all over. We've been handed so much. I'm a giant believer that in any conversation, you're meant to hear something. So tell me what your best business lesson was so that this community can hear just some great things that came out of the last couple of years. What was your best business lesson? We'll start with Stephen.
I think from the labor and employment standpoint, the clients that I work with day to day, the ones that made it through the pandemic the best, were the ones that remained flexible and understanding and empathetic of employees. And if you know me, you know that I am a pretty cynical person and don't use those words often, but I think that those are the employers who made it through the pandemic the best, right? I think that they learned that the employees who come to work aren't just robots that go there to do the work, that they're actual people with problems, with children, with caretaker issues, and that they learned that if they can stay bendy, to use a yoga term, if they can stay bendy, they made it through the best. And there's obviously legal boundaries associated with that, but learning to work within those legal boundaries and trying to come up with a solution versus being the department of no that HR can turn into sometimes, or that being an employment lawyer can turn into sometimes, just didn't work in the environment we were in. And learning how to figure out a solution was a key takeaway from 2022.
Flexibility is key. Darlene, what about you? What was your best business lesson?
It's funny because when we look at the two buckets of our customers, we have customers that are focused on internal branding. So if you're a Fortune 100 or a Fortune 500 company, it was the first time that we saw a clear line in companies promoting identity politics. We had never seen that before. And it meant that they needed to get very clear on their vision, mission, core values, and what they stood for. So we saw a deeper attention to internal branding, not just external branding. And that was a risk they took, even with a thin labor market, of saying this is what we stand for, whether that's Chick-fil-A, to give these guys some ideas, or Salesforce or Twitter, those types of companies. But we even saw it at our local level. And then for the entrepreneur themselves, they remained scrappy. They came out of the pandemic with PTSD, and they were very clear to me, I need to know what my team is doing, or I need to know what my agency is doing. I need to evaluate our budget, and I want to make sure we're high-end focused on building a strong online presence, because we need to be prepared for the next what if. So they still came out of that pandemic really wanting to make sure that their business was protected. So those are the lessons that I saw on two opposite scales. And finally, for the nonprofits that are here, we saw them becoming more entrepreneurial because they were fighting for time, resources, and dollars, and heart and mindset. So they had to start shifting and thinking outside the box in their traditional nonprofit ways.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Best business lesson in 2022.
Yeah, so I got a call in, I'm going to go back before 2022 if I may.
Okay.
But
Please.
so I got a call from a friend and a client in March of 20, and he's like, what do? I can't see any patients. He's a physician. And I can't have anybody come in. I can't make any money. I can't bill. What am I supposed to do? And so at that point, I thought, I've been in the corporate world for a while. I know how to work a financial statement. But what became really important is knowing your business inside and out from a financial perspective. Meaning knowing exactly what numbers, you know your numbers, right? And what numbers are important to your business. So we worked on different business models so he could retain his patients, get his patients back in. But what we needed to do was figure out a way to build cash. Cash is important. And it's always been important, right? But when we're told, hey, you can't open your doors for business, you can't see customers, you can't see clients, revenue stops, right? Expenses don't stop, but revenue stops. So knowing your numbers, knowing your cash balance, knowing how much cash you have available in case you can't see anybody as a customer or client is so important. that's true in 2020, 21, 22, and forever. We have to be agile enough to adjust. Hopefully we'll never be told again, don't open your doors for business. But if something happens, we need to be prepared that we can still stay in business, even though no matter what happens. Cash balance, liquidity, know your margins in your business. That goes without saying, but really make sure you have enough that you can keep going no matter what.
It shocks me every day. I've been doing this for 7 years, and just people do not know their numbers, the numbers that drive their business. So it's great insight. Thank you very much. Darlene, what is the most, from 2022, from beyond, wherever, what was the most underutilized trend in branding and marketing?
Voice search. Voice search was the most under-realized trend that you really know is there. And I'm sure that many of you guys have used Siri, you've used Alexa, you've said, find breakfast near me, or you've texted into your phone. And if you're not found, you're not found. And how many of you guys got lost coming here today, or took the wrong turn, or didn't have the right direction? It's all about business listings. There's 4 data aggregator companies in the world. They talk to the GPS systems up in the sky, the satellites. They talk to Google. They talk to DuckDuckGo, Bing, Yahoo, etc. And if your business listings aren't accurate, people won't be able to find your location. I had a great medical distributor that was doing a talent acquisition campaign. People couldn't find the location to our office. So that business listings needs to be accurate, and you need to make sure that you can be found where your customers are looking. And they're looking online, they're looking through voice search. It's more important than ever. So that's the one tool. If you do anything in marketing, you've got to make sure that your business listings are accurate. And if you don't know how they're accurate, come see me and I'll tell you how to check it out, how to figure it out.
Any other input on that from you, or from Stephen or Jeff? Underutilized trend?
From the labor and employment standpoint, again, to me, the most underutilized trend was employers not buying into the wellness perspective for their employees and just doing the small things that really cost virtually nothing, like having an employee assistance program. Is there an option to have someone come in during the lunchtime and do a session on meditating? Something that costs little to nothing. They do it on the lunch hour, so there's not much time lost. It's voluntary. They don't have to come. I think that employers who have not taken a look at what their wellness programs are in the workplace are really missing an opportunity to, number one, have a better workforce and a healthier workforce. And number 3, to engender a lot of loyalty with their employees, because I don't think that people are just looking for the high salary anymore. Trust me, that's a big factor in it. But I think they're also looking for where is a good place to work. And so I think in terms of the talent wars, employers who don't have some sort of hybrid setup are finding themselves at a disadvantage. Employers who aren't taking a look at wellness are finding themselves at a disadvantage. And employers who aren't considering what's the total package that I'm offering to employees are finding themselves at a disadvantage.
There's a huge opportunity for business being on the front lines of the mental health challenges that we're having these days, and it's a great input.
I would add to that I've had an opportunity to do some hiring, recruiting, and I've never had the experience where I've had an interview with, I would call it a higher level position, administrative position. And the person that applied didn't even show up. Like, didn't even call, didn't even text, didn't email. There was nothing, no communication. So that, I'd say, is something that, I guess it's a trend, but it's a bad one. And it's happened over the last, I think, couple of years, certainly since the pandemic. And we need to really focus on keeping our good employees, just as Stephen said. And that means providing the entire package, because the market is such that people aren't even showing up for interviews. So if that's the case, we either have to make it so they're really interested in what we have to offer, and then when we get them in the door, we have to make sure it's the right. So I've heard the phrase, hire slowly. I'm all for that. Make sure that you hire the right person and then keep them because you got the right package.
Can I chime in just one more thing that I forgot to mention? Competition for talent is now international with remote work, right? And I think that employers who haven't retooled their ads for job posting to compete in that market are also missing out on some talent to come to their organization. And by that is putting in the job posting, not just the job title and the duties, putting in what the benefits are, putting in if there's a hybrid work opportunity, putting in if they have every other Friday off in the summer, putting in the pay, right? If I think that ads that say competitive salary, competitive benefits, that's stupid. You're wasting your money posting that stuff. You need to put in the salary band that you're looking for and put in what the benefits are. Because folks who are at that upper echelon, they see something that says competitive pay, and you think, okay, if it's competitive, you post it. So I'll just keep looking.
Isn't every position going to be competitive, or should be?
It's competitive for the type of employee you're looking for. If you want to compete for a $50,000 employee, then go for it. If you want to compete for a $150,000 employee, you can compete for that too, but those are two different things.
And that lends itself to an internal focus on your internal branding, not just your external branding. So whether that's employee video testimonials or ensuring that the snapshots of the meditation sessions are posted on your social media, because now talent wants to be a part of something larger than themselves, believe it or not. And so showing them through your outreach campaign opportunities, when you're doing talent acquisition campaigns, what the internal branding looks like, how are you taking care of your employees is very important as a part of your marketing, not just your services.
So Josh Milner, he's an economist out of Australia. He has a saying, and he says, revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, but cash is king. And I add to that, and culture is everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
We don't have it without.
culture is everything, so you're absolutely right there. Speaking of culture, the quiet quitting trend has hit us big time. It's been around for years and years. Before I was in this life, I was in the staffing business, so I was very well aware of what quiet quitting was back then. Back then it was just showing up and not doing anything. But now it's super popular, and people make TikTok videos out of doing it. So Stephen, how can us as business owners and business leaders combat that going forward?
You fire them.
Okay. Simple enough, right?
Quit being a loser, right? You're getting a quietly return part of your check on the 15th and the 30th, right? I think that's one of these trends. There's a professor out of NYU named Scott Galloway, and he's got a podcast, and he talked about quiet quitting, and he said, look, if you're quiet quitting, you're going to be loudly unemployed. And I don't know. I think the whole quiet quitting thing is pretty dumb. I think for those people who aren't quiet quitting, harness the opportunity to elbow your way past the quiet quitters and climb the ranks in your own organization. I think you just get rid of those people.
What signs do we have to look for in quiet quitting?
Yeah,
Because it's not obvious.
Yeah, productivity slowing down. I think that if there's a concern that you have an organization of quiet quitters or a group of quiet quitters, you need to start engaging with those people more, because then you really find out what they're doing. Hey, we're going to have a team day on Wednesdays. You'll have to come into the office on Wednesdays. Or generally we don't feel like this hybrid work is going. Instead of having 3 days at home, 2 days in the office, we're going to switch it. We're going to have 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. And then the employee quickly sees that the dynamic is shifting, and it's not, I get to do whatever the hell I want to do anymore. It's, oh man, I'm really supposed to be working. And I think that as employers, a lot of people focus on sort of annual reviews without really taking into consideration what's gone on in that year. I think during that review period, you really need to have an honest assessment of what that employee has done. And you as a manager have an honest assessment of keeping track of, do I really know what the key performance indicators are? And if I know what the key performance indicators are and these people aren't hitting the key performance indicators, then I have something objective to look at to tell them, hey, this is where you're failing, this is where you need to catch up. But if you don't have that in place, then your reviews are just gonna be participates great in meetings, a bunch of stuff that means nothing, right?
The general.
And you give them a 4 out of 5, and then you wanna fire them a year later. Why? For poor performance, you look at their last performance review, and it's a good performance review. The egg's on your face.
Jeff, what do you see from your business consulting side? What do you see as symptoms of quiet quitting?
Oh gosh. So I think the biggest thing is lack of productivity, right? So if you have a group of employees or an employee that is not performing the way they should or doing the tasks that they're supposed to complete, then the whole productivity is down, the whole business suffers. And when the whole business suffers, then what's going to happen financially? Revenue is going to be down. Costs are still going to be up because we're still paying those people.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of fire them. Hire slow, fire them fast. But yeah, so we really have to stay on top of it and make sure that they're performing and completing the tasks that they're supposed to and adding to the value of the company. And I think as you were talking, Stephen, I reflected back on a conversation I had just last night with my daughter. My daughter's at TCU. She works at the rec center. She's a supervisor. And she asked me, I have people coming in who are supposed to work, but they hide in the corner and don't do anything. What am I supposed to do? So you got to have a good description of what they're supposed to do, their job description, some key performance indicators. So when the time comes to provide that evaluation, you know whether they're going to stay or go. But it happens early, right? They're in college.
Yeah. The 2022 Gallup poll came out a couple of weeks ago, and it said that 79% of the workforce, out of 2.7 million people who were surveyed, 79% of the workforce is actively disengaged or not engaged in work. So it's incredibly scary when you think of the numbers that are in there. Darlene, what can we do to stay relevant from a hiring perspective, from a marketing perspective?
I'm going to tell you first my personal experience, because talent was a huge issue for me as an entrepreneur. And now we've got 3 offices in Canada, Philippines, and India, and I can tell you, I got it down. I will fire anybody that's not working. I do not care. But let me tell you what really shifted, because I really was concerned that I could not be the leader of our companies because we had so much churn. And I hired everybody. I hired my children. I hired their spouses. I hired my aunt. I hired people overly qualified, underqualified. I did all of it. But what we did is we got back to the basics, and we adopted a tool called Culture Index. It saved my business. We fast-tracked our business. We had 200% growth because we got right people in right seats. Very slow to hire. So we have a filtering phone call process. Then we've got an activity that they have based on their job function that they have to complete. Then we've got a team interview process. And then from there, they have to a culture index test to see if they're even a good fit for our business. Are they stop employees? Are they employees that you've got to constantly be on them to get a task done? That's great for admin work, but that's not great for leadership work. Are they visionary? Do they have high energy level or low energy level? I'm right in the middle. Denny's got 3 times, my husband, 3 times the energy level of a normal employee, meaning he can work a whole heck of a lot longer. So what's that great for? That's great for operations. So I pulled out those tools and really got honed in and focused on our team. And I brought in a consultant because we were spending a lot of money on churn rate. I'm a big fan. If they're not performing, I look and say, did we give them the KPIs to perform? Do we give them the fair metrics, and can they meet them? And if they don't meet them, they're out of here. It's just, I don't have time for it, and our clients don't either, because they're entrepreneurs. We're taking care of their babies, their companies. From a marketing standpoint, from a human resource standpoint, I just got finished with a conference, 4 trends: belonging, balance, growth, purpose. That is the focus for admins in terms of talent recruiting. How do you make sure that the employee feels a sense of belonging? How do you make sure they've got balance in their work activities and their life activities and growth and purpose? And the quiet quitting portion of the pandemic, I do think there's a sense of entitlement, laziness that's out there, but I also think that people are getting their priorities straight. And that need to be a workaholic, or that need to put the family vacation aside so you can stay working, it changed. We got a perspective on what's important in life. And so the quiet quitting is there, but those people have been there forever. You need to get rid of them. You need to get rid of those team members so that you can keep growing your business and get a hiring plan put together. And use legal, use HR, and use a consultant, and get a solid plan put together so that you can keep growing your business.
The other thing I add is for employers, I think you need to be realistic about these performance in terms of what it is you're asking them to do for the pay, right? Like you hear all the time, like people want to pop champagne on a Kool-Aid budget. All right, it goes the same for employers, right? If you want to pay a $10 employee, you're going to get a $10 employee, right? You're probably getting an $8 employee, to be honest, but you're paying them 10. Just don't go below $7.25. Don't expect, right, somebody to come in and bust their tail 75 hours a week for if you're not paying them, right? So
there's some teaching now that says that the boss mentality is really what's turning the engagement from employees. And they're looking for the coach mentality now. So they don't want to be told what to do. They want to be coached into their role. They want to be coached up and maybe even one day coached out, as you guys have covered pretty well.
Yeah.
So let's change gears just a little bit. There is a looming issue out there from an economic condition, and that's inflation, right? Inflation is happening. We're seeing prices go up. That is, of course, increasing costs for everybody from paychecks to goods to it's impacting the supply chain. How has inflation really, truly impacted your sectors? Start with Jeff.
Okay. Inflation is absolutely real. It's been here for a while. It's right now a little over 8%, I think. It reached 9% in June. And what happens when there's that kind of inflation? First of all, I don't think we were really prepared for it when it happened. We were not prepared. And when we experience inflation to that extent, our costs are increasing at such a rate we can't keep up. So there's only two things if you want to keep the same margin, same profitability. There's only two things that you can do. There's two sides of the equation, revenue and expenses. So if you can increase your prices and pass that on to some extent to your customers, your clients, then that's going to happen. We see that. We see that all the time. The other side is you're going to have to decrease expenses. Now, your expenses are going up because of inflation, right? But perhaps you're not going to travel as much for sales. Maybe you're not going to have as many cell phones that your employees have had. Or what I hate to see, but I've seen it, is that maybe you're not going to buy the same quality of material. So you're saving money there. So inflation has had a huge impact on business. It will continue into the next year. The other thing that we're dealing with is increase in rates, right? Cost of capital is going up. So we really have to be mindful of keeping our margins, knowing our numbers. So inflation is not going to go away.
Darlene, how has inflation impacted your sector?
So we're seeing more of the entrepreneurial businesses shifting from opportunities for membership-based selling. So those products and services that you can sell that create reoccurring revenue, right? Product adoption is very important. So if you're in technology, give them the opportunity to use your product for free, and then eventually they buy into the product subscription-based. Think Netflix, right? You get to go onto Netflix for free for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you're doing that. So it might be restaurants that are selling packages and lunch packages, things of that nature. It might be we're going to sell some sort of accounting service package, and then it's going to be a recurring revenue of monthly billing that we're going to bill our clients for this package. So it's been very interesting to see from B2C to B2B. That reoccurring revenue model is something that people are looking at and wanting to exploit. From a cost saving standpoint, no better time to start recession proofing your business and really understanding your numbers. Like I think we've talked about over and over again, you need to know your variable cost, and you've got to start figuring out how you're going to increase those costs and add more value. So I'll give you an example. Insurance rates went up $10 a month, and all of a sudden now we're able to go get our blood work done 4 times a year for free. So they went up on our cost, but they added more value, right? So you really got to look at the value and put yourself in the shoes of your customer. What are they going through, and how can you find solutions to solve their inflation issues? And everyone is your customer. Your employees are your customer, and then you've got your customers that are generating revenue, but you've got to think where they're at. What are they fighting? What are they dealing with? And come up with services or thought leadership knowledge to help them through their own issues.
When we've hit economic bumps in the past, the first thing to be cut is the marketing budget. Do you believe that's the same, that going forward we should watch that, or do you think we should increase it?
Listen, I have a little bit of a different opinion about marketing because I came from big business, but we grew our contracting company. When I left corporate America, we grew our contracting company from 1.8 million to 8 million in revenue, no website, no email marketing, no social media, nothing. So I have a great marketing agency and I believe in marketing, but what I do believe in is quality of service and the quality of the people to deliver the service and building your referral business. Now, marketing is the added gravy on top. And I think there's some core foundational issues that you've got to deal with now more than ever. You've got to get your business listings taken care of. Your website needs to be stronger than ever. You've got 6 seconds to make an impression. And you've got to focus on reputation management. What is that? That's getting reviews for your business. Because if John tells me that I need to go to this type of restaurant or this type of business or service, I'm still going to go to their website and check them out. I'm still going to look at their reviews. I love John and I appreciate his referral, but I'm still going to go see what people are saying about that restaurant or what the website looks like in terms of their services and their level of professionalism and what kind of impression they're going to make. So foundationally, email marketing has a higher return on investment than digital ads, 82% return on investment over digital ads. Your website needs to be up and going. Your business listings needs to be solid and current and accurate. And then if you want to add anything else on, you can. I'm not a traditional marketing agency. I'm not going to tell you to go out and follow the trends, because most of the time you're following the trends on TikTok and your website looks like crap. Doesn't make sense to me. Or your business listings aren't up to date, but you got video flashing all over your website. No, fix your foundations first and go from there. And then finally, trends are moving away from digital ads and they're moving into SEO and blog writing, thought leadership, being a help for others out there. And digital ad spending was our number one service 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Our number one service is blog writing.
Wow.
And then following is our website services.
So it sounds to me like we're stuck in a pickle, right? Costs are going up, people are buying less, employees are demanding more. So it's going to be a rough year. It's going to be a rough year. Before I open it up to the community here for questions on your Whova app, if you haven't already downloaded, I would hurry up and do that. We do have a couple of questions here already. But what would be one quick takeaway that you want this group to take from you and from what you do and how you can help them in 2023? We'll start with Jeff.
So I would say we've said it many times, but know your numbers. And what do your numbers mean? What numbers do you need to know? You need to know your cash balance, and just not knowing what your cash balance is, but how much cash do you have now? If you did not have any more revenue coming in for the next 6 months, can you pay your bills? Now remember, we were told we couldn't go to work a couple years ago. So is 6 months enough? Maybe not. Maybe you need more cash. I would say at minimum, start at 6 months and keep track of your cash balance on a regular basis. The other thing is your margins. We talked about your margin, your gross margin. That's the amount that you keep after your variable costs. Darlene talked about knowing your variable costs, so important. Gross margin, operating margin. How much are you making? How much are you keeping from your core business? So your margins, gross, operating, cash balance are super important.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Stephen, one takeaway for this group before I open it up to the questions?
I'd say employers need to check their compliance status. It's been a couple of years since we've been in this low where employees haven't been coming in. When's the last time you did training? When's the last time you looked at your handbook? Have you made a change to your handbook to comply with Texas's new sexual harassment law? I think you just need to do an internal assessment, sit down for a morning with a professional, go over your policies, go over your practices, see where you need to improve, see where you need to catch up. Because it's been on hold for the last couple of years, and it's going to come back to haunt you pretty quickly once folks start coming back into the workplace.
Awesome. Darlene, last bit before I open it up to the 2 questions we have in the Whova app.
So from a marketing standpoint, if you're not getting a 4-time return on investment, you need to evaluate your marketing expenditures. 4-time is pretty rational. And so you need to really look at what your agency's doing, what your team is doing. And please, for God's sake, don't hire your niece to do your social media. Really take some time and think about your marketing efforts. This is an opportunity for you to get ahead of the competition. Recession is normally when marketing gets put on the back burner, but while they're on the back burner, you can be up on the front. So really take a look at your investments in your marketing efforts and get focused. Don't follow trends, get focused on the basics and then build from there.
Awesome. Okay, so we have 2 questions, at least from what I can see, but I'll refresh in a minute. The first question is how important is the onboarding process in setting the tone for new hires, making sure they're connected, staying connected to team members, company values, mission, and culture? How do you do it? Who do you think, who wants that one?
I can take that one.
All right, go ahead.
I think it's really important. You've gone through, when you go through the application and interview process, everybody's on their best behavior, right? It's like going on that first date, right? You're not like belching and doing all picking your nose and stuff at the table while, they're bringing out the wine. So that's like the application phase and the interview phase. And the onboarding process is really the sort of do we really want to be married? And it's really important to convey what the company is about, not just what the expectations are, but what we're about, what we do, what we tolerate, what we don't tolerate, what it's like to work here, what's going to be expected of you. I think it's a really important process. And I think there's a lot of employers who don't put enough stock in the onboarding process and treat it as you come in and fill out these forms and here's your desk and laptop. But I think there's a real missed opportunity there to really get the employee truly on board to the organization.
Awesome. And I just want to add, there's a difference between orientation and onboarding. Orientation is day 1. Here's the pamphlet, sign everything. Onboarding is the 90-day to 100-day process, getting them equated. All right, next question is responsibility versus accountability. Do you find that retention is the key to retention is to outline responsibilities of the business versus the accountabilities of their job?
Both are critical. They have to meet the responsibilities to perform according to whatever their description is and in their job for their position. And they're accountable for making it happen. And their supervisor, whoever they're reporting to, whether a business owner or their department, they're accountable to make sure that person is completing their tasks as well. So it's a team effort. Nobody's out there on their own trying to make things happen. But they have a job to do, but they should have somebody, whether it's business owner, supervisor, to help them complete those tasks. They're accountable as well.
And I think no better time than now to start implementing biannual, every 6 months, doing that check-in review, even if it's a partial review, as opposed to waiting for the annual review. So getting that 6 months in and saying, this is where we're at as a business, here's where we need you to be, here's where you are, how can we help you? And then implementing that personal plan with them. And it's really a great time when you can have that one-on-one to say, where do you want to be and how can I help you get there? Yep. And really bonding with that employee.
Yeah, somehow along the way we made accountability a 4-letter word. And it shouldn't be. Accountability is the ability to count our way to success. So we just have to make sure that they understand the right process there. All right, last question before our time is up. Do you think it's fair to employers that we have to bait associates to stay? In regards to quiet quitting, retention expenses, and effort to ask associates to do their jobs, it feels like a new era. Who wants to take that one?
Well, I think it is a new era, and I think it's fair because that's the market and capitalism, and jobs are capitalism as well. So yeah, I do think it's fair.
Anybody else want to add anything?
I'm not begging anybody to stay. There's the door.
Oh, was begging? Did you say
Bait.
was the
bait?
word, yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't beg either, but
No, I wouldn't. If they have a job to perform, if they don't know how to perform their job, then there should be somebody there to mentor, support, guide. And if it's not happening, cut them.
There's some stat out there that says 75% of counter offers, they end up leaving within 6 months anyway. So they broke trust a long time ago when they're interviewing and seeking other spots. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't bait them to stay. that would find another path. There's somebody out there. Some will, some won't.
Let them find a win-win elsewhere.
Well, thank you three for coming up and sharing your knowledge and your expertise with this community. We're right on time, so thank you very much.
Thank you.